No one imagined that a simple cleaning woman would receive the most powerful financial tool in the world from a dying billionaire. But what happened next would prove that sometimes the greatest fortunes aren't measured in money. Emma Chun was 26 years old, with bright eyes hidden behind thick-rimmed glasses that constantly slipped down her nose. Her black hair was styled in a distinctive double bun that made her look even younger than she was. The green cleaning uniform she wore every day was always impeccably clean, a small point of pride for someone who spent her days dealing with other people's messes. She'd only been working at Blackstone Industries for 2 years, but she approached each task with a quiet determination that set her apart from her colleagues. Marcus Blackstone defied every stereotype of a CEO. At 35, he was the youngest chief executive in the company's history, with sharp cheekbones and penetrating dark eyes that could command a room without saying a word. His tall frame was always wrapped in perfectly tailored black suits that emphasized his athletic build. But beneath the confident exterior and stunning good looks, a rare genetic condition was destroying him from the inside. The doctors had given him 6 months to live when he was 33. He'd already beaten their predictions, but he knew his time was running out. The story unfolds in the heart of Manhattan, where steel and glass towers pierce the clouds and fortunes are made and lost with each tick of the stock market. The Blackstone building stood like a monument to ambition, its top-floor offices offering views that stretched to the horizon. But in the early morning darkness, when Emma pushed a cleaning cart through those hallways, it was just another building that needed dusting. Their first real encounter happened on a Thursday morning that started like any other. Emma was cleaning the executive floor, humming softly to herself as she worked. She'd seen Marcus many times before. He was often the last to leave and sometimes the first to arrive, but they'd never spoken beyond polite nods. That morning, she found him sitting on the floor of his office, his back against the wall, struggling to breathe. Without hesitation, Emma dropped her cleaning supplies and rushed to his side. She adjusted her glasses and looked directly into his eyes, seeing past the CEO to the frightened young man underneath. As she called for help with one hand, she held his hand with the other, speaking in a calm, steady voice about anything and everything. Her double bun hairstyle that her grandmother taught her, the view from his office at sunrise, the small cactus on his desk that needed water. The paramedics arrived and took Marcus to the hospital, but not before he squeezed Emma's hand and really looked at her for the first time. Behind those glasses were eyes full of genuine compassion, something he'd rarely encountered in his world of corporate sharks. The next evening, when she arrived for her shift, she found an envelope on her cleaning cart with her name written in bold strokes. Inside was a black credit card and a note. "You saw me when I was invisible. Now it's your turn to be seen. No limits. Show the world what kindness can do. Emma stared at the card, her hands trembling so much her glasses nearly fell off. She knew what a black card meant. Unlimited funds, the kind of power that someone like her should never possess. Her first instinct was to return it immediately, but something about the note stopped her. He'd been vulnerable with her. Maybe she could trust his judgment. If you believe that true wealth lies in what we do for others, maybe it's time to join us on this journey. For a week, Emma carried the card without using it. She continued her routine, arriving at 4 a.m. in her green uniform, her double buns perfectly in place. But now she noticed things differently. The single mother on the cleaning crew who skipped lunch to save money. The elderly security guard who winced with each step because he couldn't afford knee surgery. The intern who wore the same shoes with holes because every penny went to student loans. The first time Emma used the card, her hand shook as she handed it to the cashier. She was buying groceries, not for herself, but to stock the break room with real food for the overnight cleaning crew. The second time was bigger. She anonymously paid for security guard surgery. Each transaction felt surreal, like she was living someone else's life. But Marcus was watching from his hospital bed. Every transaction notification brought a smile to his face. His board of directors was in uproar, demanding he revoke the card. His lawyers threatened to quit. But Marcus had spent years accumulating wealth with ruthless efficiency, and only now, facing mortality at 35, did he understand what it was really for. Emma's kindness began to transform the building from the ground up. She established a daycare for the children of night shift workers. She created an emergency fund for employees facing unexpected hardships. She started a scholarship program, not just for college, but for trade schools and certification programs. Each initiative was carefully researched. She spent her days off in a library, her glasses perched on her nose as she studied nonprofit management and sustainable giving. The transformation wasn't just external. Emma began to carry herself differently. The shy girl who hid behind her glasses started speaking up in meetings with building management. She advocated for better wages, better benefits, better treatment. Her double buns became a symbol. Workers would smile when they saw her coming, knowing she was one of them but had the power to make changes. We have more stories like this coming. So don't forget to hit the like button and turn on notifications. 3 months into her quiet revolution, everything changed. A tech blogger investigating corporate philanthropy noticed unusual patterns in Blackstone Industries' community impact. The trail led to Marcus's Black Card, and eventually to a 26-year-old cleaning woman with a double-bun hairstyle and thick glasses. The story went viral overnight. Suddenly, Emma's simple life exploded. Reporters chased her down hallways. Her image, green uniform, glasses, and distinctive hairstyle, became famous. Social media divided into camps. Those who called her a modern Robin Hood, and those who accused her of manipulation. The board of directors issued ultimatums. Marcus's relatives, smelling opportunity, suddenly appeared claiming he wasn't mentally competent. Through it all, Emma kept working. She arrived at 4 a.m., put on her green uniform, styled her double buns, and cleaned. But now she also fielded calls from nonprofits, met with community leaders, and slowly built a network of change that extended far beyond the Blackstone building. The call from Marcus came on a rainy Tuesday. He was back in the hospital, weaker but determined to see her. Emma found him propped up in bed, still devastatingly handsome despite the illness ravaging his body. They talked for hours. Two people from different worlds who found an unexpected connection in a moment of vulnerability. Marcus told her about taking over the company at 28, about the loneliness of success, about how her simple act of kindness had reminded him why he'd started building his empire in the first place. Emma told him about growing up in foster care, about getting her GED at night school, about how cleaning offices was supposed to be temporary, but became a lesson in dignity and hard work. Would you have done the same? I'd love to know what you think. Before she left, Marcus made his move. His lawyers entered with documents that would rewrite corporate history. He was restructuring everything, creating a foundation that would be run not by MBAs and financial experts, but by people who understood need. Emma would be its director, not because of her education, but because of her heart. The battle that followed was fierce. Board members resigned in protest. Relatives hired expensive lawyers. The media scrutinized every aspect of Emma's life, from her foster care records to her work history. Photos of her in her green uniform, adjusting her glasses, became symbols in a larger debate about wealth, worthiness, and who deserved power. But Emma had learned to fight with kindness. She invited reporters to see the daycare, to meet the families helped by the emergency fund, to talk to scholarship recipients. She spoke simply and honestly, her glasses reflecting the camera lights as she explained that she was just trying to help people the way she wished someone had helped her. Marcus passed away on a Sunday morning, just as dawn broke over Manhattan. Emma was there, holding his hand. Her green uniform traded for civilian clothes, but her double bun still in place. His last words were a whisper. "You saw me. Thank you for seeing me." The funeral was unlike any corporate send-off. Alongside executives in expensive suits were cleaning crews, security guards, and all the invisible people who keep buildings running. The legal battles intensified after his death, but public opinion had shifted. The image of a young woman in glasses and a green uniform standing up to corporate lawyers became a rallying cry. Donations poured in from unexpected sources. Other CEOs, perhaps feeling their own mortality, began to support the foundation. The board, recognizing they were fighting a losing battle against public sentiment, finally conceded. 1 year later, the Marcus Blackstone Foundation had helped over 50,000 people. Emma, now 27, still wore her glasses and often her double buns, Though the green uniform had been retired, she'd hired experts to help manage the foundation, but she insisted on personally reviewing grant applications, remember what it felt like to need help and have nowhere to turn. Her office was on the executive floor now, but she kept Marcus's cactus and added her own touches. Photos of scholarship recipients at graduation, letters from families helped by the emergency fund, a small sign that read, "Kindness is power." She'd enrolled in online college courses, studying between foundation meetings and community events. The black card that started it all was displayed in a simple frame on her desk. Visitors often asked to see it, this piece of plastic that had changed so many lives. But Emma knew the truth. The power was never in the card. It was in Marcus's decision to trust someone society overlooked, and in her decision to use that trust wisely. The ripple effects continued to spread. Other companies began to examine how they treated their service workers. The double bun hairstyle became an unexpected symbol of quiet revolution. Young women working in service industries started wearing it as a sign of solidarity and hope. Emma received thousands of letters from people inspired by her story, people who'd started their own small acts of kindness. She still lived simply, in a modest apartment filled with books and plants. She bought herself one luxury, new glasses that didn't slip down her nose. But otherwise, she remained the same Emma who'd knelt beside a dying CO and seen not as wealth or power, but as humanity. The foundation grew beyond anything Marcus had imagined. It funded hospitals, schools, and community centers. It provided microloans to small businesses and paid for job training programs. But its core mission remained what Emma had started with, helping invisible people who keep society running but are rarely seen or valued. Marcus Blackstone had built an empire before 35, but his greatest achievement was recognizing that a 26-year-old cleaning woman with glasses and a double-bun hairstyle understood something he'd spent years missing, that wealth means nothing if it doesn't lift others up. Emma Chun continues to run the foundation with the same quiet determination she once brought to cleaning offices. She speaks at universities now, her glasses reflecting the stage lights as she tells students that everyone has the power to change lives, even if they start with just a mop and bucket. She reminds them that Marcus didn't give her power. He recognized the power she already had. And in the Blackstone building, where it all began, a plaque hangs in the lobby. It shows two figures, a tall, handsome man in a black suit and a young woman in a green uniform with distinctive double buns and glasses. Below it reads, "Sometimes the most powerful connections happen when we're brave enough to see each other as human." The story of Marcus and Emma became more than corporate legend. It became proof that age, beauty, wealth, and status matter less than compassion, that a dying 35-year-old CEO and a 26-year-old cleaning woman could together create something that would outlive them both, and that sometimes the most shocking thing you can do with unlimited resources is trust them to someone whose only qualification is a good heart. Because in the end, what Emma did with that black card wasn't to spend money. She proved that inside every person society overlooks might live the wisdom to change the world. She showed that kindness, when given the resources to flourish, could transform systems and lives. And she demonstrated that sometimes the most unlikely partnerships, between a young CEO facing death and a cleaning woman with dreams bigger than her circumstances, can write the most beautiful chapters in human history. Underscore. Pauso continua com historia completa basada nessa estrutura. Tentar novamente emsim, please, com vida moco, reviravoltas paiseo, e que prenda adinqueo do vinicata efine capitulo, please. Editar require historia completa com vida moco, reviravoltas apaisants e ganchos irresistiveis. Historia completa, rotero narrativo. Sometimes the most powerful love stories begin with a dying breath and a pair of trembling hands. When 26-year-old Emma Chun found her billionaire CEO collapsed on his office floor, she never imagined that saving his life would cost her everything she knew and give her everything she never dared to dream. The autumn rain hammered against the windows of the Blackstone building as Emma pushed her cleaning cart through the executive floor. Her double buns were slightly disheveled from the long shift, and her glasses fogged with each breath in the cold hallway. At 4:47 a.m., she should have been alone, but a strange sound from the CEO's office made her freeze. A crash, then silence, then a gasping sound that made her blood run cold. She found Marcus Blackstone on the floor, his perfect black suit crumpled, his handsome face twisted in pain. At 35, he looked like death was already claiming him. Emma dropped to her knees, her green uniform stretching as she cradled his head. "Stay with me," she whispered, her glasses sliding down as she leaned over him. "Please, just stay with me." His eyes, those famous dark eyes that commanded boardrooms, locked onto hers with desperate intensity. I can't breathe," he gasped. Emma's fingers found his wrist, pulse racing beneath expensive cufflinks. She called 911 with one hand while the other smoothed his dark hair. "Tell me about yourself," she said, trying to keep him conscious. "Tell me anything." "I'm dying," he whispered. "Been dying for 2 years. Nobody knows." The confession hit Emma like a physical blow. This powerful man, this corporate titan, was just as mortal as anyone else. "You're not dying today," she said firmly, adjusting her glasses with determination. "Not on my shift." The 10 minutes before the paramedics arrived felt like hours. Emma talked constantly about her grandmother who taught her the double bun hairstyle, about the sunrise she witnessed every morning from his office, about anything to keep him anchored to life. When his hand found hers, she squeezed back without hesitation. In that moment, employer and employee ceased to exist. They were just two human beings fighting against the dark. As the paramedics lifted him onto the stretcher, Marcus refused to let go of her hand. "What's your name?" he asked weakly. "Emma," she replied. "Emma Chun." He smiled then, a real smile that transformed his face. "Emma," he repeated, like he was memorizing it. "My guardian angel wears a green uniform. If you believe that love can bloom in the most unexpected moments, maybe it's time to join us on this journey." The next night, Emma arrived to find the executive floor in chaos. Security stopped her at the elevator. "There's been a breach," they said. Someone was in Mr. Blackstone's office. Emma's heart sank. Was he okay? Had something happened at the hospital? But when security finally cleared her to clean, she found an envelope on her cart with her name in bold, masculine handwriting. Inside was a black credit card and a note that would change everything. "You saved more than my life last night. You reminded me I'm still human. This card has no limits. Use it to save others like you saved me. I'm trusting you with my fortune because you're the first person in years who looked at me and saw a man, not a bank account. Show the world what kindness can do. Marcus." Emma stared at the card, her hand shaking so violently her glasses nearly fell off. This had to be a mistake, or a test, or a cruel joke. She knew what black cards meant. Unlimited funds, ultimate power. Why would he trust her with this? She was nobody, a foster kid who cleaned offices, a girl with thick glasses and a minimum wage job. But then she remembered his eyes in that moment of vulnerability, the way he'd held her hand like she was his lifeline. Maybe that's exactly why he chose her, because she knew what it meant to have nothing, to be invisible, to struggle. She slipped the card into her pocket, its weight feeling like destiny. For a week, Emma carried the card without using it, terrified of its power. She continued her routine, but now she saw everything differently. Maria, the single mother on her crew, diluting her daughter's formula to make it last longer. George, the elderly security guard, limping because he couldn't afford knee surgery. Sarah, the young intern, wearing shoes held together with duct tape. How had she walked past such suffering every day? The first time Emma used the card, she bought groceries. Not for herself, but to stock the break room for the overnight crew. Real food, not just vending machine scraps. The second time was bigger. She anonymously paid for George's surgery. When he came back walking without pain, tears streaming down his face as he wondered who his benefactor was, Emma had to hide in the supply closet to cry. But someone was watching. Marcus, from his hospital bed, tracked every transaction. Each act of kindness brought color back to his pale face. His board of directors was in uproar. You gave a cleaning girl unlimited access to company funds. They raged. But Marcus just smiled. I gave a good woman the power to change lives. Watch what she does with it. Emma's kindness began to transform everything. She created an emergency fund for employees, started a daycare for night shift workers, established scholarships for their children. But she did it all anonymously, still arriving at 4 a.m. in her green uniform, still pushing her cart, still adjusting her glasses nervously when anyone looked at her too long. Then Marcus called. I want to see you. His voice was weak but warm through the phone. Please. Emma's heart raced. She thought him every day, wondered if he regretted his impulsive gift. I'm just a cleaning girl, she said softly. No, he replied. You're the woman who saved my life. Twice. We have more stories like this coming. So don't forget to hit the like button and turn on notifications. The hospital room was private, expensive, but somehow cold. Emma stood in the doorway, suddenly self-conscious in her civilian clothes. Marcus was propped up in bed, still devastatingly handsome despite the illness. When he smiled at her, her knees went weak. You came, he said simply. You asked, she replied. They talked for hours. Marcus told her about taking over the company at 28, about the genetic condition that was slowly killing him, about the loneliness of being surrounded by people who only saw dollar signs. Emma told him about growing up in foster care, about getting her GED at night school, about finding dignity in honest work even when the world looked down on her. Do you know why I gave you the card? Marcus asked as the sun set outside his window. Emma shook her head. Because when you found me dying, you didn't see a CEO. You didn't calculate what saving me might be worth. You just cared. Do you know how rare that is in my world? Emma adjusted her glasses, a nervous habit. You took an awful risk. I could have run off with everything. Marcus laughed, then winced at the pain it caused. But you didn't. You used it to help others. Every transaction tells me I was right about you. His eyes grew serious. Emma, I need to tell you something. The next word shattered her world. I'm in love with you. The confession hung in the air like suspended rain. Emma's breath caught. This brilliant, beautiful man was in love with her? You don't even know me, she whispered. I know enough, he said. I know you work 16-hour days and still smile. I know you treat everyone with dignity. I know you could have taken millions and disappeared, but instead you're buying groceries for coworkers. I know your heart, Emma. That's all I need to know. But before Emma could respond, alarms started blaring. Marcus convulsed, machines screaming. Doctors rushed in, pushing her aside. You need to leave, they said firmly. Emma stumbled out, her last image of Marcus being surrounded by medical staff, fighting for his life. Again, she went back to work that night, pushing her cart with numb hands. Had she imagined the confession? Was it the medication talking? But when she reached his office, she found another note. If you're reading this, I survive another day. Every sunrise I see is because of you. Don't run from what we both feel. Life's too short, I should know. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., the hospital. Please. Emma's hands trembled as she cleaned, her mind racing. A CEO and a cleaning girl? It was insane. Impossible. The stuff of fairy tales, not real life. But then she remembered his hand in hers, the way he looked at her like she was everything. Maybe impossible things could happen. Maybe love didn't care about social status or bank accounts. Would you have taken that leap of faith? I'd love to know what you think. The next evening, Emma stood outside the hospital, her best dress feeling inadequate, her glasses freshly cleaned. She almost turned back 3 times. But then she thought of his eyes, the vulnerability in them, and pushed through the doors. Marcus was waiting, sitting up, color in his cheeks. When he saw her, his whole face lit up. You came, he breathed. You asked, she said again, but this time with a smile. Emma, he said, patting the bed beside him. I need to tell you everything. And he did, about his diagnosis, his 2-year battle, his regrets, about building an empire, but having no one to share it with. about how her simple act of kindness had awakened something he thought was dead. "I don't have much time left," he said finally. "Maybe months, maybe weeks. But whatever time I have, I want to spend it with you. If you'll have me." Emma's eyes filled with tears behind her glasses. "Marcus, I'm nobody. I clean offices. I wear a uniform. I don't belong in your world." He took her hand, his touch electric. "You're not nobody. You're everything. And I don't want you in my world. I want to be in yours. The real world, where people care about each other, where kindness matters more than stock prices." Their first kiss was soft, tentative, tasting of hope and tears. When they pulled apart, Emma was crying openly. "This is crazy," she whispered. "Completely crazy," he agreed. "But I'm dying, Emma. I can't afford to be sensible anymore. Can you?" The scandal broke a week later. A hospital worker had seen them together, sold the story to a gossip blog. "Dying CEO's shocking affair with cleaning girl" screamed the headlines. Pictures of Emma in her green uniform, her double buns visible, were splashed across the internet. The board went nuclear. Marcus's relatives appeared from nowhere, claiming he was being manipulated, that his illness had affected his judgment. Emma arrived at work to find reporters everywhere. "Are you after his money?" they shouted. "How long have you been planning this?" Security had to escort her to the service elevator. Her co-workers stared, some with sympathy, others with suspicion. The woman who'd helped them all was now the gold digger in the headlines. But the worst was yet to come. The board filed an injunction, freezing the black card. The daycare was shut down. The scholarship funds were locked. Everything Emma had built started crumbling. She tried to see Marcus, but his family had to move to a private facility, banned her from visiting. She was alone, her reputation destroyed, her simple life shattered. For 3 days, Emma didn't leave her apartment. She stared at the black card, now useless plastic. Had it all been a mistake? Should she have just remained invisible? But then her phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Emma?" The voice was weak but unmistakable. "Marcus? How are you calling?" They said, "I escaped," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "Check myself out AMA. I'm dying, not incompetent. Listen, I don't have much time. They'll find me soon. I need you to come to the office. Tonight, midnight. Trust me." Every instinct told her not to go. It could be a trap, a setup, but this was Marcus. Her Marcus. At midnight, she stood in the lobby of the Blackstone building, her green uniform on for camouflage, her double buns tight with nervous energy. The security guard, George, whose surgery she paid for, let her in without a word, just a grateful nod. Marcus was in his office, looking pale but determined in his black suit. When he saw her, he crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. "I'm sorry," he whispered into her hair. "I'm so sorry for what they put you through." Emma clung to him, breathing in his scent, feeling his heartbeat. "It doesn't matter," she said. "You're here." "Not for long," he said, pulling back. "Emma, I need you to listen carefully. My lawyers, my real lawyers, not the board's, are on their way. We're going to fix this. All of it. But first," he dropped to one knee, and Emma's hands flew to her mouth. "Emma-chun, you saved my life in every way that matters. I don't know how many days I have left, but I want to spend every single one as your husband. Will you marry me?" The world stopped. Emma stared down at this beautiful, dying man who was offering her everything and asking for nothing but her love in return. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, Marcus. Yes." He slipped a simple band on her finger. Not the massive diamond she might have expected, but something better. "It was my mother's," he said. "She was a teacher. She would have loved you." The lawyers arrived with a minister. It was surreal. A wedding in a CEO's office at midnight. The bride in a cleaning uniform. The groom racing against time. But when they said their vows, none of that mattered. Emma promised to love him for whatever time they had. Marcus promised to spend every moment showing her she was worthy of being loved. As they signed the papers, Marcus's phone exploded with calls. The board had discovered his escape. Security was on the way up. One more thing, Marcus said quickly, handing Emma a thick envelope. The real black card. Different account. They can't touch this one. And he pulled her close. If something happens to me, know that you made my last months worth living. You gave me love when I'd forgotten what it felt like. Security burst in, followed by board members and lawyers shouting about competency hearings and annulments. But Marcus stood tall, Emma's hand in his. Gentlemen, he said calmly, I'd like you to meet my wife, Emma Blackstone. And if you'll check your emails, you'll find I've just restructured my entire estate. The company remains with the board, but my personal fortune? That belongs to the woman who reminded me that money is only powerful when it's used with love. The room erupted. Threats were made. Lawyers pulled out phones. But Marcus just smiled, swaying slightly. Emma caught him as his knees buckled. Hospital, he whispered. Please. As paramedics arrived, again, Marcus looked at the furious board members. You can fight this, he said weakly. But ask yourself, do you really want the world to know you battled a dying man's widow over his right to choose love? The hospital room became their honeymoon suite. Emma rarely left, bringing her textbooks. She'd enrolled in online classes to better understand the foundation work. Marcus watched her study, his eyes full of pride. They talked about everything and nothing. He taught her about business. She taught him about life. They laughed at the absurdity of their situation. A CEO and a cleaning girl who'd fallen in love over a heart attack. But Marcus was getting weaker. The good days became fewer. Emma learned to read his medication schedule, to anticipate his needs. She became fierce with doctors who talked over him, protective of his dignity. The media painted her as a saint or a sinner, depending on the day. She ignored them all, focused only on the man who'd chosen her. One night, as Emma dozed in the chair beside him, Marcus woke her gently. I need to tell you something, he said. The company. There's going to be a hostile takeover attempt after I'm gone. The board has been planning it. But I've left you something they don't know about. A kill switch. If they try to destroy what we built, you'll have the power to stop them. Emma's eyes widened behind her glasses. Marcus, I don't know anything about corporate warfare. He smiled weakly. You know about fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. That's all this is, on a larger scale. Trust yourself, Emma. Trust your heart. It hasn't led you wrong yet. 3 weeks later, on a quiet Tuesday morning, Marcus Blackstone died holding his wife's hand. He was 35 years old. Emma was with him, whispering words of love, promising to continue their work. His last words were, "Thank you for seeing me." The boy who built an empire died as a man who'd found love. The funeral was a battlefield. On one side, corporate titans and society elite. On the other, the employees Emma had helped, janitors, security guards, single mothers, all come to pay respects to the man who'd recognized their champion. Emma stood between both worlds. Her simple black dress and signature double buns a statement that she wouldn't pretend to be anything but herself. The reading was explosive. Marcus had left the company to the board, as promised. But his personal fortune, every investment, every property, every secret account, went to Emma. More importantly, he'd left her voting shares that, combined with few allies, could block any major corporate decision. The widow in glasses and double buns now held the balance of power in a billion-dollar company. "This is ridiculous," shouted the board chairman. "She's a cleaning woman. She has no education, no experience." Emma stood slowly, adjusting her glasses. "You're right," she said quietly. "I am a cleaning woman. I've cleaned up after all of you. I've seen what you throw away, what you waste. And now I'm going to clean up this company's act." The battle was vicious. They hired investigators to dig into her past. They planted stories about her foster care years, her lack of formal education. They filed lawsuit after lawsuit. But Emma had learned from the best. She hired Marcus's personal lawyers, the ones who'd help with the midnight wedding. She gave exclusive interviews, not to financial press, but to human interest shows, telling the real story of their love. More importantly, she had allies. Every employee she'd helped became a soldier in her army. They leaked documents showing the board's plans to cut benefits, outsource jobs, prioritize profits over people. The media narrative shifted David versus Goliath, with a young widow fighting for her husband's legacy against corporate greed. The turning point came when Emma revealed Marcus's kill switch, a provision that if the board tried to fundamentally alter the company's charter, ownership would revert to a trust controlled by employees. It was a nuclear option, one that would destroy share value but protect workers. My husband believed the company should serve all stakeholders, Emma announced at a press conference, her glasses reflecting camera flashes, not just the ones with stock portfolios. Faced with potential ruin, the board negotiated. Emma didn't want to run the company. She wanted to ensure it remained true to what Marcus had started to believe in his final months. They reached a compromise. The company would maintain its profitability, but implement the social programs Emma had started. The foundation would be fully funded and independent, and Emma would have a permanent seat on the board, a voice for the voiceless. 1 year after Marcus's death, Emma stood in his former office, now hers. The black card sat framed on the desk, a reminder of how it all started. She still wore her glasses, still styled her hair in double buns, but now she wore designer suits at Maria, promoted to head of building operations, helped her choose. She was studying for her MBA at night, determined to honor Marcus's faith in her. The foundation had helped over 100,000 people. The daycare had expanded to 12 locations. The scholarship program had sent its first graduates to college. But Emma's proudest achievement was smaller. She'd established a program where executives had to spend 1 day a month working alongside service staff, seeing their company from the ground up. Sometimes, late at night, Emma would stand at the window where she'd first found Marcus dying. She'd touch her wedding ring and whisper to the city lights, telling him about her day, about the lives they'd changed together. She knew he would be proud, not of the money or the power, but of how she'd remained herself. The cleaning girl who'd saved the CEO's life, then save his soul, then save his company from itself. The media still followed her story, fascinated by the fairy tale that had turned into a revolution. Young women wrote to her, saying her double buns had inspired them to be proud of who they were. Business schools taught cases about the Blackstone transformation, how empathy had proved more powerful than traditional corporate strategy. But for Emma, it was simpler than that. She'd loved a man who'd happened to be rich. He'd loved a woman who'd happened to be poor. Together, they'd proved that when love guides power, miracles become possible. The black card had started it all, but in the end, it was just plastic. The real power had always been in choosing to see each other's humanity. As she prepared for another board meeting where she'd fight for employee benefits, Emma smiled. Somewhere, she knew Marcus was watching, probably amused at his cleaning girl turned corporate warrior. She adjusted her glasses, tightened her double buns, and picked up her files. There was work to do, lives to change, a legacy to protect. Because that's what love does. It transforms. It elevates. It takes a dying CEO and a night shift cleaner and writes a story that changes everything. Emma Blackstone had received a black card, but what she'd really been given was a chance to prove that love, real, transformative, powerful love, could revolutionize more than hearts. It could change the world. And in the lobby of the Blackstone building, a new plaque gleamed beside the elevators. It showed two figures, a tall man in a black suit and a young woman in a green uniform. And below it, the words Marcus had whispered in his final days. Power is nothing without compassion. Wealth is empty without love. But together, with the right heart to guide them, they can move mountains. Emma Chin Blackstone, the cleaning girl who'd married a CEO and inherited an empire, was living proof that sometimes the most impossible love stories are the ones that leave the deepest mark on the world. She'd started with nothing but kindness. She'd ended with everything that mattered. And somewhere in between, she'd fallen in love with a dying man who'd taught her that the greatest fortune wasn't money. It was finding someone who saw your worth when the rest of the world looked right through you. The black card still worked, still had no limits. But Emma had learned something Marcus knew when he gave it to her. The only limits that matter are the ones we place on our capacity to love, to trust, and to believe that every person, regardless of their uniform or their title, has the power to change everything.